miles away. Again, a long exposure. This time I'm using the really good ISO range of the camera. So I'm using an ISO 6 setting, which is very good. It allows me to take some really long exposures, and something I've not really been used to before with Foveon. So yeah, superb for that use. The next image, Roger.
Yeah, it's up
Okay, so this one again, this is Somerset. It's up at a place called Priddy Pools, which is just outside of Wales in Somerset. And again, relatively new to the camera at the time. I'd only had it for a matter of days, so I had to get used to the functions. And as I previously mentioned, they're very, very easy to work with. Again, ISO 6 in this case. So very clean files at ISO 6 as well. Burnham-on-Sea, again, close to where I live, taken early in the morning, and again, ISO 6 once more. I've got to actually really like the ISO 6 capabilities of the camera, and the files are just really nice, straight out the camera. Very little work needed to be done on them, and the colors are just great. Again, mono this time, and set the camera to a mono feature, enabling me to capture the mono. You see now has had very little done on it. I've darkened the sky down slightly with a vignette, but apart from that, it's pretty well what came out of the camera, really. So it's extremely easy to work with. The next one, Roger.
Yeah, it's up.
Okay, mate, thank you. Yeah, that's on Dartmoor. Now, one of the best features of this camera for me is just purely its size. It's so small and compact, and when you're walking around Dartmoor, you don't really want to be carrying, lugging around a lot of gear, your big lenses, and some of the primes I've got are relatively heavy. So to be able to just travel lightly, the FP makes life so much easier. I can go out with the one lens. In this case, I had the 14 to 24 millimeter art lens, which is stunning. Again, in Cornwall, my home county, this is Wheal Owls, and very little done to this one. The files are really clean, colors very, very pleased with, and yeah, just a pleasure to work with, really. The camera just really does capture detail very much, well, similar to the Foveon, to be fair, which I was very surprised about when I first received the camera, how good the files were. We got the next image there, Roger.
Yeah, it's up.
Yeah, brilliant.
Slow internet.
This time we've got Roach Rock again, another place that's close to where I was actually born in Cornwall. I actually run workshops specifically at this location purely because it's somewhere that doesn't get photographed that often. Once again, I've used the 14 to 24 millimeter art lens, and I've managed to get a lot in the frame, being a full frame sensor as well. It enables me to capture everything, which would have been hard to have done with my previous camera. So it's yeah, very, very good for that situation. Again, another very old piece of stone, which is down in Cornwall. This is Lanyon Coit, which is in West Cornwall, and once again, I've used the FP and the 14 to 24 millimeter art lens. Really pleased with the detail in the under the stone. I've managed to pull that back in post-processing, so the camera has great dynamic range, which is really something that is so useful. Again, now I'm up into the Lake District and Derwent Water. This image was taken only a matter of about 3 weeks ago, and that's Derwent Island there in the distance. A foggy, misty day, not the best conditions to shoot in, but I had to work with what I had, and I used ISO 6 once again to give me that really long exposure and give some kind of mood to the image. Probably my favourite image from this year, to be fair. This is a Looper Fin tree in Scotland. Once again, taken about 3 weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago. I visited my my friend Paul Monaghan, and he took me to this wonderful location. We had a brilliant evening. The sky was just superb. So Mother Nature done its job for me and made my life so much easier. Again, the dynamic range was quite harsh. You know, there was a lot of contrast between light and dark. So I think that the sensor done very, very well to actually keep everything sort of contained, the highlights not blown, and I managed to pull some of the shadow detail back as well. This time Loch Maree up in the Torridon region of Scotland, and I've used a 70 to 200 millimeter lens for this. So I think the focal length was around 100 millimeters, early in the morning, and once again really pleased with how the FP performed. Files are just great, really can't fault the camera, and again, the size being so small, it's so handy to just walk around with something so small, albeit I had a 70 to 200 mm lens, which was obviously quite a heavy lens. So the last thing you want is a bag full of lenses, really. Everyone photographs here, obviously a TV Moor in Scotland, and taken on the River Couple. This was early in the morning once again, and really pleased with the file. Close up, I've looked at this, I've printed it as well, and really, really pleased with the actual final result in print. Looks lovely, and the colours, that's what really does it for me. It's got a look that's very similar to what the Foveon gives me. So I'm getting the best of both worlds really with both systems. This one up at Bowfiddle Rock, so further north now, and a place I'd never visited before. I was looking for a lead-in line, so I've used the pebbles to lead your eye into the image. And obviously you have Bowfiddle in the background there, Bowfiddle Rock. A long exposure again, ISO 6, and a very, very long exposure, 250 seconds, so it was a relatively long one. Loch Maree once more, and this is the same tree in the far distance. For me, the image, it was all about the mountain in the distance lighting up, early morning, very little about, apart from lots of midges, which are hard to work around. But yeah, very pleased with the image. Again, the FP, I love the front to back sharpness. The stones at the front, the foreground are nice and sharp, and the distance also seems pretty good. Shot at f11. I'm very pleased with that one. My favourite location, this is Porthnavan. It's a place where I've done quite a few workshops now previously. Anyone's ever interested in a workshop with me, you look me up at leetippett.com, and now and again I will run workshops down at Porthnavan. I've shot square this time, but we do have another image which is actually I think it's a 16:9, taken early in the morning. There we go, this is 16:9. Again, early in the morning, and ISO 6. I really like the ISO 6 capabilities with this camera. It gives me the opportunity of really long exposures, and I can actually take long exposures without using an ND as well. So really impressed with the function of the camera, which is something I've got to really like. St Michael's Mount, another place I visit during my workshops, taken again in the morning, and very pleased with the way that one worked out as well. The files are always nice and clean with the FP. And another one in Cornwall, this is Carlisle Bay, which is on the south coast near St Austell. Another morning shot. As you can tell, I like the mornings, and I love the light you get first thing in the morning. And again, long exposure. Holywell Bay on the north coast this time, very close to where I was born actually. Just about 3 miles away, a place I know really, really well. And I visit here practically every time I go back home. Again, really like the colors from the camera first thing in the morning. And again, clean, very pleased with it. Now we're going back up to Somerset. This is close to where I live. And this is Lilstock on the Somerset coast. And we do have a coast in Somerset, but it's very small. Again, long exposure, and this one was taken in the evening, and you've got the light on the groins, the sunlight on the groins, which was what I wanting. I think the camera picked it up very well, really. I have 3 images here. This is the first one, all taken at the same location, but different times of the day, different times actually. This is the first one at Blue Anchor, a long exposure again. This one's 25 seconds, and I've used ISO 20 for this image. One of my favorites, again, same location, slightly different position. This time, very long exposure, 400 seconds. And this was at f11, and once again ISO 6. It came out really nicely. Colors are good, and yeah, one of my favorites. And again, one of my favorites from this year so far. The last one, same location once again, slightly closer. No rails in this one, but again taken in the evening, a totally different day. And again, another long exposure, 125 seconds at f11. I have used filters on the sky just to darken the sky down a bit. But I just love the colour of the sea. It really, all different colours, different times of day, so it's surprising. So that's my images. Hope everyone likes them.
Okay, thanks very much, Lee. Time is obviously of the essence here, so we'll try and press on. You would have seen that Lee is a very thoughtful landscape photographer, takes his time, works out his locations, and also thinks about when and where he needs to be at certain times. Well, I've used the camera in a completely different way. I travel, I'm doing travel. I've taken it on two extended tours, one into California in the Rocky Mountains and deserts, and one in the winter in Yellowstone. I'll show you a few images from that. I have to own up that I am a dedicated Canon user. I've been for the last 35 years, and but I have for the last 20 years been testing Sigma and blogging on some of their lenses because I use them extensively. But in this instance, I tried to use the FP alongside the 1DX Mark II that I'm using because I really wanted to gauge what it was like. And as you will see here in Yellowstone, I've got to say the results are fantastic. I've got giant hands, so the camera's a bit of a handful, bearing in mind it's only the size of a cigarette packet, but there are accessories that help you work with the camera, and we're just talking about video here, not about stills here, but it's got an unbelievable video capacity on it, and a lot of filmmakers are using it for that as well. But really what I wanted to see was whether it actually produced the goods. You have to say that controlling the images, and I shoot raw, and one thing's interesting, put some of the gizmos on that's in there like panoramic. Provided you shoot in RAW, you'll always end up with the full frame RAW file. But dynamic range control is fantastic. As you see from here, you're in deep shadow on the Merced River and the last light on Half Dome. And just intimate details like the colours of the slates. This is a little favourite place of mine just outside Yosemite. And you can see how the fine details resolve. The quality of the image is astounding for this piece of equipment. I would say that perhaps it's going to be a must-have camera for people using drone photography because the quality you're getting out of it is immense. And bearing in mind, I'm comparing that with my 1DX Mark II, which is a reasonably competent piece of equipment. The other thing, unlike Lee was just dedicated to Sigma lenses. I had a number of Sigma lenses. I used the 14 to 40 in California, but I was also using it with the converters for Canon, and a lot of these images taken with that, and quite frankly, I cannot see the difference. This is Bodie, of course, and just a few shots from here. A great place to visit if you're in Central California, and well, a must place to visit, and with lots going on. And as I say, some of the interiors, you can't go in the buildings, but you can shoot through the windows. And if you treat yourself to one of these giant rubber lens hoods that lock the light out, you can get this sort of quality, but right the way through, the detail's immense. Another place out in the Central Valley of California is Mono Lake. And again, just a couple of shots. An early morning shot here. An early morning shot here. Just to show the control of the dynamic range, and again, an after dark with long exposures. Unlike Lee, I didn't use the 6 ISO and bits and pieces. I was more the other end because of the shooting that I do, because I tend to be instantaneously reacting to the light, moving about, finding locations and reacting to what I find when I get there. Another interesting location that not many people visit, this is the Alabama Hills, and trust me, you would have seen it. It appears in many, many films. It's a fantastic location. This is Mobus Arch, right at sunset, taken with the 14 to 24. But what's interesting, right through the middle of Mobus is the highest peak in contiguous United States, Mount Whitney, of course. A couple of shots, and we're in pretty harsh environments here, out in the dust, out in the mud and the rocks and bits and pieces. And I've got to say, the actual sensor stayed very clean, much more so than my 1DX, which gets plastered. But this was really good. Again, this is the Mesquite Dunes in Death Valley, and again using the 14 to get that sort of fantastic wide-angle detail, and the resolving power. Being in mind, you've got those bright salt pans in the early light. Again, I think, you know, the detail it resolves is immense, right the way through the image. And as I say, for such a tiny camera, it really does blow your mind away. Another place in Death Valley, this is Zabriskie Point. Again, late light, so we've got a very high dynamic range with deep shadows and bright highlights coming in from the sun as it disappears in the west. And again, after it's gone, looking in the opposite direction with the alpenglow, retaining all that detail on Zabriskie Point itself and the moonrise as it comes up. Good for interior, as you can see, this is the 14 to 24, but with a decent tripod and a bit of ISO and proper depth of field, the detail it renders is immense. And if you want to have fun, well, this is a fun camera to be with. This is the Embarcadero Center in San Francisco. It's an amazing place. If you're in San Francisco, don't take your tripod in, just go in with a wide angle. This is where the 14mm came in very well for me. But it's a great place for photography if you're ever in the area. And just the last couple of shots from the California trip, and this was obviously in Marrakesh over that famous bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, and we were lucky enough to have this fog billowing in through the bridge, which is the conditions that you really want. And from there, I went directly in front of where that picture was onto Treasure Island and shot back just as the light went down. And you can see the fog rolling under the Golden Gate, and on the right-hand side of this image, of course, is Alcatraz. We don't go there because we never get off it, but there we are. So in that little session in California, it demonstrated to me just how capable this camera was. And handling the raw files was a joy because they were so accurate. It was amazing. And then after that, I decided that it's fine taking it, although this was November, it's not particularly cold. So I decided to take it on one of my winter trips out to Yellowstone. And we're talking conditions where you get down to minus 45 Celsius at certain times of the day. We had a few days like that when we were out there. And that really does test the camera because, you know, you're working in some of the most harsh environments that you can find. These are the Grand Tetons, again, a monochrome image, and you can see the resolving power of that. But the winter here is tricky because although you've got snow and bits and pieces, you're getting lots of angular light coming through the valleys and the rivers and bits and pieces, such as here at Firehole Falls. But it's resolved the actual bright sun rays as well as the trees. All more intimate detail here, where you're looking at quite a high dynamic range between the brightly lit snow and the shadowed stump that's almost black, and you can still resolve that difference from it. And of course, here in the winter, you're moving about because of the tremendous temperature differentiation. You've got hot springs coming out at almost 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and then minus 30 centigrade temperatures around in the day. You're going to get steam, goodness knows what. There's no worse thing to put a camera into this sort of steam and those environmental conditions. But the camera worked perfectly. It didn't miss a beat. And the thing I did, I made sure that I took a lot of spare batteries with me. But what was surprising, it worked equally as well in the winter and battery life as it actually did in the November time when the climates are warmer. I mean, the cameras are not going to be out and about outside. They're going to be kept in camera bags when they're not in use. But that was quite surprising for the little beastie. But you can see it's handled these very well. He just rendered the colour, the interchange between colour and monochrome, which, you know, the Snow is, of course. It's really capable little piece of equipment. And again, I was shooting with Canon lenses and the 35 1.2 in this instance. And if you can tell the difference, I'll be great, because I can. I know them because I can look at the data, but the actual image quality you just can't actually see. Now, such a little camera, it's not the ideal camera for wildlife, but if you're going to test something, you've got to test it. And in this instance, that is what I was trying to do. And again, so I was plugging this on the 100 to 400 Canon or the 500 f4, but it gives you an instance of what you can. And shooting something like this bison against the light in real low light conditions, it still resolves a fantastic detail in the fur. And this coyote, again, the full frame shot's on the right hand side, but I've blown up a section of it just to let you know just how well this camera resolves. And of course, to have fun, I work with a well-known wildlife photographer, who's a good friend of mine up in the Beartooth Mountains, and he has pine martens, he knows where they are. So we're lucky enough to be able to photograph them if we get the opportunity. They turn up, of course. That's wildlife for you. And again, as I said, I'm a reactionary landscape photographer. I like chasing the light. I like fleeting light. And here in the Lamar Valley, as it fleets across the hillsides in the bitter cold, but it is for me those magic moments that make it work. And we were lucky enough to have a super moon, and this is over the Continental Divide, two tops on the Idaho-Montana border, just west of West Yellowstone. So, and again, even in that bright sunlight, it still resolved tremendous detail in the moon itself. So there's our little camera. I got to say, I am amazed that such a little package can produce such stunning quality. I'm not saying it's perfect. I mean, I've got big hands and there's little buttons on it, which sometimes do annoy you, but Sigma have packed so much into this camera that you just can't believe how modern technology has got down to this level. And quite frankly, they should be, really proud of what they turned up. For any travel photographer who wants a backup camera, or anybody hiking a long distance, stick this in your backpack. It's worth every penny of the money. Okay, Hazel, I think we're done here.
Oh, I'll come back now. Has anybody got any questions? Thank you, both of you. I love the local shots, and let's hope that we can all get over to the US at some point to visit Yosemite and Yellowstone. What fantastic pictures, Roger. Has anybody got any questions for these guys at the moment? Just type them into the Q&A box and I will read them out. It's probably a really silly question, Lee and Roger, but can you get this camera yet? And how do you go about that? Is it readily available?
Yes, the camera is available. In fact, Sigma just initiated a loan and try and buy system where you can actually hire a camera and take it away and play with it. And if you buy it, you get your loan fee taken off. So it's been available on the market for a year now. So yeah, it's out there. And, as I say, it's just go and talk to Sigma. Their stands on the show, of course, they'll show it to you.
We've got somebody who's just asked, is it compatible with Nikon lenses?
Yes, they make converters for the standard Nikon. I used Canon, but they've definitely got Nikon. I'm not au fait with a full range, but they do a converter. So you can stick it in your camera bag, have a converter, and use all your relevant lenses. Certainly Nikon and Canon. I'm not sure about the others, to be truthful.
Lovely. Okay. And is there any way that if people have specific questions for either of you guys, are you are you around to be contacted? Are you on social media or anything so that people can tap you up for a few tips?
Yeah, I can always be contacted, Hazel, anytime. If anyone wants to get hold of me, you can either have a contact box on my website. My website is lee.tippett@sky.com. Lee is LEA, so it's a relatively strange way of spelling Lee. Or you can email me at lee.tippett@sky.com. So either way, that's fine. I'm happy to receive any emails or messages.
Lovely. And Roger?
Same with me, Hazel. They can go on either of my websites, either rogerreynolds.co.uk or photoventures.net, so which is my travel site. So
lovely. Okay, thank you very much, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on at the virtual show this year. Let's hope to see you in person next year. Thank you very much, and we'll see everybody soon.
Thanks,
Okay.
Hazel, for letting us do the show. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.